got to keep in mind before the verses happened, I was very intentional with making that happen. You know, I even went on to tell Coco, hey, let's go online and let's have this kind of back and forth. You know, I sing one of your songs, you sing one of our songs.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll help get the verses. And I said, then who knows, we could probably do a tour. So I was always, I don't want to say intuitive with that, but I always felt like that was a
You
need
had a
for us to
vision. You were always a visionary with that.
definitely.
Yeah.
And so when I told her, she was like, girl, and she ended up doing it. I did it. And then after that, the verses happened. So immediately the phone started to ring and I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. We may one day do a tour, which end up leading to a TV show. And normally when you do TV, it kind of helps to spearhead a lot of things. And I was excited about the TV show because I was like, okay, we're finally going to do some stuff together. The world to see two super groups who've weathered the storm, still here 30 years. I think there's a 31 years. I think that, yeah, they came out before us. So I was like, who better to do it than us? And then to come to find out that, yeah, no, they didn't want me. And I'm like, I spearheaded all this, so I can't be a part of what this is. And the group just nobody was talking to me at that time. Not my group members weren't, but the other group members were
So this communication rift that started off
years
coming
ago.
off the second album, you all were kind of lacking communication.
Yep.
Now fuels you guys into this new season of you guys are still not talking and communicating
Yeah, and
with
then
one another.
I'll say this: even in between the breaks, we did have somebody that was trying to take the biopic from us, like talk about our story, and the girls felt like nobody could tell our story like we can. And
Because you
I
all did an
agreed.
unsung. You
We
all
did. We
did a
talked about that.
yeah
Like,
on
yeah.
unsung.
And so they were trying to compile all of this information and tell the story about Escape. Nobody knows the story of Escape except Escape. And so I got a call from my sister. She goes, hey, you know, the girls called me. They said, don't talk to nobody. You know, people are trying to get our story. So it brought us together to talk about that. And once we started to talk about that, I was out of town on the West Coast. And then they called me and said that they were on the Big Ticker show. And they said Escape is back together. And I was like, Escape is back together? I knew nothing of it. I just knew that we didn't like what was happening, but I didn't know we were back together. And so the fans started to weigh in like, oh my God, the TV show happened. We did Still Kicking It.
Mm-hmm.
Got through that time. We still didn't talk a lot. It was cameras on, let's go. And so we still weren't able to talk about, you know, what the problems really were. We kind of touched on a couple of things. And after that, we went on tour.
But I felt like when I watched that show versus the last reality show you all did, it seemed like there was a split between Candy and Tiny and you and your sister. It kind of felt like the line was kind of between Team Sisters, Team Candy and Tiny. And then when the new reality show came, it appeared to me, just to me, that you were the outlier at that point.
Well, I think when Still Kicking It came on, I could say for myself that Tiny and I became closer. We had, you know, we were always the closest ones anyway in the group. And so we started to talk more, started to spend more time together. I was always there for her, you know, in certain times that she needed me and vice versa. So I didn't see the two-way split. I felt like we started to communicate more, she and
Okay.
I. And our husbands, you know, they started to get together and talk. We had family night. There was a lot of things that were going on, you know, during that time. But I didn't see that part of it. But I do know that when things started to escalate for the last show, yes, I was definitely on the out. It was 7 women. I just didn't understand how 7 women turned into one person being scrutinized and kind of placed. I was just ostracized to me in that way.
I mean, I saw one of the interviews, and then I've read this in some of the publications that have come out about this. When the tour was announced, and you were trying to figure out what was going on, you had your lawyer send a letter to the group to see if what was this tour, what was happening with this tour.
Yeah.
Did
No
you
response.
do you feel like there was some opportunity for you to just pick up the phone and call them, or was a lawyer necessary?
Well, the lawyer was very necessary because you already have dates. You already have your infringement rights on the trademark. It was so many different things that I
because
didn't
you
want
own
to
the
talk.
trademark. You own the trademark of Xscape.
My sister and I, yes.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's like you guys are not talking to me, and you guys are having meetings. Coco was in Atlanta for a meeting that was called for them to have communication to squash the differences, but I was never called. So she calls me and says, hey, they flew me in. Are you going to be here? And I said, beware. We're having a meeting. They called this big meeting downtown, and I was not invited. And I told her I know nothing of it. So she said, let me find out about it. I'll call you back. She calls me back and says, yeah, they're trying to do the tour. We squashed the differences. We all said what it was. I hate that you weren't there. What is going on? I told her, I don't know. She said, they're not talking to you still. I mentioned, why aren't y'all talking to her? Don't worry about this. Basically our business. So they didn't want to get into why they weren't talking to me. And after that, it's like, okay, I sent a lawyer to make sure that legally you guys understood that I didn't know anything about the tour, who was going to call me. Live Nation was on the letter. Mona Me was on the letter. All the people that were involved were on the letter. It wasn't to the group to say, anything crazy. Is y'all not telling me nothing. I didn't know nothing about the tour. And the fans, I never wanted to disappoint them. It's like, y'all don't know what's really going on. So y'all thinking I'm quitting, that I'm a diva, that I said I never quit the group. Never.
You have never quit the group?
Never quit the group.
Even to this day?
Never quit the group.
You have never quit the group?
No. They just choose to move on in the way that they're moving on without me. So, yeah, you get your legal involved. It's not just a conversation anymore. You guys are doing more than too much.
So if given the opportunity, if there are some conversations that happen and communication becomes a thing again, would you sing with the group again?
I mean, that's the group that I started out singing with. Like, why wouldn't I want to sing? Do you think I'm going through all these lengths to do what? Do you get lawyers? You know how much, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
To get lawyers involved, to just sit back and be like, what? That I don't want to sing, that I don't want to be on the stage and give the fans what they're used to, that I don't want to sing the soundtracks to their lives, what they know.
Because you are a missing link on for them on stage, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, those are my sisters at the end of the day. Like, nobody wants to be kicked out of it, a situation that you started, that you created. You don't want to be kicked out. But at the end of the day, it is what it is,
I can imagine that has got to be a little hurtful, though.
A lot hurtful.
Yeah.
You got your sister in the group. You got two other girls who you grew up with, and nobody calls. They say they don't have the number. Yes, they do.
I told you before we got started, because I want everybody to know I went over all of these things and questions with you before we started. So she is not being like, oh, here go Brandy trying to be. No. We talked about this.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I brought up to you. I was like, I saw the video and heard your sister called into the Ricky Smiley Morning Show.
Yes.
If that blessed you, trust me, you've only scratched the surface. There's so much more wisdom, truth, and transformation waiting in the full conversation. Click the link in the caption below to watch the entire interview, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss an episode of Vault Empowers Talks.